Hello everyone, welcome to Pen Connect. Pen Connect is Penmancy's unique venture where we bring authors closer to their readers. Sorry for joining in a little bit late. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, and I am really happy to welcome Dr. Balesh Jindal with us today. Welcome to Penmancy, Dr. Balesh. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Monica. I'm so happy to be here because I love, talking about my book and coming closer to people.
Right. Thank you, everyone who is joining. Aparna, Sheila, thank you for joining in. And I am looking at other people. Supriya also has joined in. Guys, today we will be talking about Balesh ma'am's book, The Reluctant Doctor, Stilettos to Stethoscope. And we will be discussing a lot more about, what goes into writing a memoir and everything. But before that, let me give a brief introduction of our guest to you guys. Dr. Balesh Jindal is a graduate from Lady Hardinge Medical College. She has practiced medicine for the last 38 years. She has been a pioneer in providing a one stop health facility at low cost and single handedly changing the mortality rates for the children in Kapashera. Her work in treating tuberculosis and HIV is well documented. She has been the recipient of the Award for Compassion by Stanford University Center of Compassion. BBC has also featured her work, The Most Compassionate Day in the World. In addition to her outstanding achievements as a doctor, Balesh ma'am is also an accomplished artist, a poet, and a badminton player. That's an impressive resume, ma'am. I have seen most of your paintings and they are so beautiful. There is so much detail in those
Thank you.
paintings. That's really
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much. You're very kind, I think.
And before we go any further, I would also like to congratulate you on being the recipient of the Tagore Ratna Award. You just made the announcement, guys. She has just received the Tagore Ratna Award. I'm sorry, she has her screen. All right, ma'am. I can you see me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you so much, Monica. I got the news today evening only, so that's quite a recent award, and I'm very humbled to receive it.
Right. And coming back to your book, I read your book, through the past 3, 4 weeks, and I found it so moving and so informative. I am a person of science. I have been associated with the healthcare industry for, to some capacity as a
Hmm.
pharmacist, and
Hmm.
it makes so much sense to me. The way that you have described the importance of a clinical practice in a rural area. It was
Hmm. Hmm.
super amazing. Like it was really interesting. Like I cannot tell you, your book made me, it made me laugh and cry. So moving.
Monica, it really moves me because when I was writing, I didn't have any audience in mind. But I just knew that these stories had to be written. And so I wrote it. But now, when people are saying it moved them, I feel my effort was worth it because I knew people need to hear my stories. It was so important.
Yes, definitely. And for everybody out there who has not read ma'am's book, it is a memoir, it is a medical memoir, and it is a collection of her stories of 40 years of clinical practice. She in this book she gives, she describes how she gave up on her dreams and faced the challenges of a rural practice, and she goes on to change the lives of patients by treating not only their physical diseases but solving their psychological, marital, and adolescent issues. And I want to tell everybody that it is not a very easy book to read. It is a hard book. It describes a lot of superstitious beliefs. It describes blind faith the village people had in quacks and voodoo doctors and their disastrous consequences. But there is also joy and celebration and hope in this book. And I urge you to please pick up this book and read it. You are not going to be disappointed.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
before, okay, so I want to ask you, it could not have been easy writing this book. It must have been really difficult. how did you decide, what stays in the book and what, goes out?
Okay, so I think it was COVID which set the ball rolling, I think, for quite a few of us who started writing
Right,
during COVID. Because I was very, very busy pre-COVID. And then COVID happened. So I got 7, 8 months at home because my son blackmailed me that I wasn't to go to the clinic. So I
right,
think that's they even my children posted a writing table for me. So I had no excuse not to write. And then these stories had been simmering inside me, but I was so busy. I was busy with my practice, morning, evening, and traveling so much, as I've mentioned in my book. But when I started writing, I just wrote. I didn't go for any chronological order. I just started writing, and I knew my titles, they were in my head.
right,
Like Mornings at the Railway Track. I knew that. I knew the tuberculosis. I knew all the topics I needed to mention. And
right.
I just started writing. The editing came much later, the chronological arrangement came later. And it
All
doesn't
right.
need any arrangement, actually, if you see. It didn't need
Hmm.
much.
Hmm. 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 Right. But how did you? I'm sure that there is a lot more to this book which did not make it into the book. There are a
True.
lot of other stories as well. So how did you
Yes.
decide? Like, okay, this comes in the book, but this does not come in the book.
Well, as you know, the editor decides it. I gave her 140,000 words, and they said, no, it has to be 70,000. So
Oh,
half my book, so I said, don't
yeah.
cut off my chapters. It was like I accepted. I said, don't cut off chapters, just remove certain complete chapters and make it
Right.
70,000. That's what the agreement we came to. So I have a lot of chapters with me right now.
Right, right. So are you planning to compile all of those chapters into a separate book?
Yeah, probably, but now I will kind of write it as in the third person. That's what I thought is safer
Right, right,
because
right,
people kind of gauge you and they assess you. Oh, I didn't know you were unhappy. I didn't know this. So it's not a personal. I've written it in my foreword too. Like, don't judge
right,
me by the book.
right,
But
right,
people
right.
are judging me, I notice. So I'll write it in a third person now, the rest of the stories.
Right, right. And this is something, that really hit me hard when I started reading the book is how unapologetic you have been about your own feelings, about starting this practice, about your privilege, about your, twiddling of thumbs in the beginning of the book. You've been so unapologetic. And I'm sure that, like you said, there will be people out there who will say that you had no reason
True.
to be unhappy. You had no
True.
reason to
True.
be reluctant
Right.
about it,
Right.
and I
Right.
am so glad that it made it into the book because this is important. When we grow
Yeah.
up, when we are growing up, we have so many aspirations, we have so many
True.
dreams, and it really
True.
hurts when we cannot achieve what we have set out to achieve.
Yes,
It hurts
yes,
no matter
yes.
who you are.
I
So
know,
I'm
I
really
know.
glad that you put it in the book.
Yeah, the thing is, for almost 15, 20 years, 2 decades, I was so unhappy that I kind of wasn't in touch with any of my colleagues because they were all doing great things. They were in big hospitals, either abroad, and they were talking about the latest research. I had nothing to talk about except villagers. And they would talk over my head because they were doing such fancy things, and I was just treating villagers. So for 20 years I think I was out of touch. But when I got my award for compassion from Stanford, that then I raised my head a bit. I said, I've got validation. What I'm doing is something good. Nobody can take it away from me. That was the
Right.
point. It gave me validation, I think.
Right, right. And it's very important, to have at least after so many years of not being happy with what you were doing, to come to a
Yeah,
point where you know that, this is the path that was laid out for you and
this
you
is the
did well
path.
in it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
that's very
yes.
important.
I know. And I wouldn't say I was unhappy for the first 20 years. I think in the first 5 years, I realized that this is my destiny. That I realized. The way people were coming in hordes and hordes, I could not manage them. They were coming full of tractors and touching my feet, and I became God to them at 27, 28. So that was very overwhelming. very overwhelming. And I realized that I'm meant to be here.
Right, right, right. I'm so happy that you decided to, tell all of these stories. One of the most, significant aspect of this book, the perspective that I really liked is how, your clinic is the single spot on the map, and the story kind of arcs outwards. From your
True,
clinic,
true.
we get like a panoramic view of Kapashera, the village, the setting, the lives that the people are living. So how did you come to this perspective that okay, because you have not moved anywhere, your routine is the same,
I know.
house to clinic to
That's,
house. From that
I know.
clinic, you are giving the reader a whole view of that entire village. The people out there, the setting. How did you come to this perspective?
That's
This
such
is
a
how I
wonderful
want to live.
question, actually. I'm glad you asked it because it's a fantastic question. Like very few people have asked me this. So the thing is, as I've written, I was the first stop of anything that happened. It's not only Kapasera, like hundreds of villages surrounding Kapasera. There are hundreds of them. And I can rattle off when they come to you, like with a, say, a burnt bride, they'll bring her to me. And I know exactly what's happening. Then I learned to identify. I can even recognize now which person is from which village. From their
Right,
dialect, from their clothing, I can figure out. And I got to
right,
know when, so many are coming, which village is rich, which is poor, which has immigrant labor. I learned to do all that because there were so many, and I knew the disease patterns of a certain village. You know, I got to know that. It's all practice. And when you're there, sitting there like a pillar, not moving anywhere, so you got to learn.
yeah, but that requires so much of conscious observation, which is something
Yes,
that I have seen. Like even I visit my local GPs, and it's very easy to kind of slide into the routine and not
true, true.
observe the people, not pay attention to
Yeah,
the people and
yeah,
their problems, just treat the disease. It's very easy.
true,
And
true,
I
true.
was really struck by how observant you have been throughout your practice, to kind of now come to a point where if somebody walks in, you can tell he kahan se
Yes,
aaye hain,
yes.
which village they have come from, and everything.
I know, I
That's
know.
amazing, amazing.
In fact, Monica, even now, like when I go to my clinic and a patient comes after, say, 40 years, 39, 40 years, maybe because I'm an artist, my memory of colors is very strong. I don't forget it. And I tell them, आप 39 years पहले आए थे, मेरे पास येलो चुन्नी डाल के. And she's so shocked,
Oh my god.
I remember,
Wow, that is amazing, amazing. We have some beautiful compliments coming your way. You are often not aware that you are being a part of making history. So glad you realized you had a destiny and you could contribute to it in your own way, Dr.
uh,
Balesh.
thank you, thank you. I'll wear my glasses to see whose name, then I can name them.
That was
Kajal.
Khushbu. That was Khushbu.
That's Khushbu. That's
And,
Khushbu, yeah.
huh,
Thank you, Khushbu.
and Kajal is saying how inspirational is Dr. Balesh Jindal and so moved by her journey. Same
Thank you,
here.
Kajal. Thank you so much.
All
Excellent.
right, let me see. Okay, so let me just look at. People are actually kind of appreciating the painting behind you, and they want
Oh,
to ask if
you
it
want
is
me to
something
move
that you
from here?
have.
I I can move from here.
No, is it your artwork? Have you
Yes,
drawn it?
yes,
It's
yes.
beautiful. It's beautiful. This reminds me of this thing that you said in your book, where you're
Huh,
asking the reader, was it wrong of me to pick my patients as the muse for my art? You are asking
true,
the reader.
true,
And as
true.
a reader, my answer is no, it is not wrong. And,
Hmm.
I feel that art is a way of understanding your own life and
Right,
understanding the
right.
lives of other people. I
I
want to
know.
know what your answer is. I want to know what your answer is to this question.
I felt for me as an artist and a doctor, it's okay as long as I'm not revealing their identity.
Right, right,
And I have written that in my book. Since I've jumbled, it's a story spanning 4 decades. So I've jumbled up the decades, I've jumbled up the families, I've jumbled up the incidences, but they're all true. I've taken the poetic license to jumble them up, you know. So I
Right,
don't think anybody can recognize. And if I can take inspiration from somebody walking on the road, I wouldn't be doing
right.
anything wrong.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's just
I
that I
agree.
was so full of these faces. My brain is so full of the faces. People ask me, why do you make only faces? I said, that's all there's in my head. What do I do? You know?
Yes. And it has to come out somewhere. And it comes
Yeah,
out in
yeah,
such beautiful colors and palettes,
true.
then, it's a gift to the universe.
Thank you, thank you.
So, what was the most challenging aspect of writing this book? The most challenging aspect.
While writing, there were 5 things I took care of, or 4 maybe. I didn't want to sound too congratulatory, so I had to cut out wherever I thought I was praising myself too much. That I was very conscious of these facts. It shouldn't be self-congratulatory. I shouldn't be wallowing in my pity all the time. 2 things. 3, I didn't want to wash dirty linen in public. 3. And number 4 was I didn't want to sound bitter. There were a few sentences which my editor cut out where she thought I sounded bitter.
Right, right.
So,
Yes,
which was okay. I told her these 4 things, please cut them out. And repetition, fifth, 5 things.
right.
Because
Ha
in a
ha ha.
memoir, I think a person tends to repeat because I wouldn't know what is repetition. So she cut out a lot of repetition, definitely.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, that is very true because I think this is one of the main reasons why people, avoid reading memoirs is the
Right,
person is
right.
being too
True.
self-congratulatory, or
Ah,
if it is a celebrity and they are being like too
true.
modest. Oh, it's not my talent, it's just
Right.
luck and fortune or whatever. So
True,
these
true,
things why people don't read memoirs,
true.
and so
Okay,
glad that
okay.
you are aware of removing all of these from the book,
Right.
and still you have managed to preserve the voice, your voice and your
Huh.
feelings in the book.
Right, right.
That's a job
And
well
another
done.
thing, I was very sure, Monica, that it should be till you, like, since I've been writing poetry for a very long time. And I thought if you don't open your heart out, you don't rip it open, it's not going to touch anybody. That's for
Right,
sure. So I had
right,
to be brutally honest to myself, you know.
right.
I think
Yes,
that's
yes.
probably comes out in the book.
It does. It does. You have explored, so many difficult subjects that people don't usually talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you say, it's about the, big fat Indian family system. How you describe, the pros and the cons, like the dirty cons of this family system, and how you are just scratching away at the surface of what is accepted and what is
Yes,
normal in the society, and
true,
giving the
true.
reader a peek into something very unpleasant. You've talked about drugs, you've talked about rape, familial rape, abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse,
Right, right.
all of those things. So did you face any kind of backlash from, kind of the readers or the reviewers or even the medical community? Did you face any kind of backlash saying that, this is not how a doctor is supposed to behave, or this is not how you're supposed to practice medicine, something like that?
No, I didn't face a backlash, but from the patients, yes, I faced a lot of backlash for even mentioning this. Because in
Ah,
Indian families, they want to push everything under the carpet.
right,
That was, I mean, nobody wanted to hear the big Indian family. Like I had a talk in Rotary where my talk was titled The Big Fat Indian Family. And the women didn't like it. I mean, because they are the grandmothers. I said, your grandmothers, you should be listening to this. This so it doesn't happen in my family. They just hide it.
ah,
That's what makes me very, very upset and angry. I'm very, very angry about it.
right. And I felt that anger when I was reading your book, like, and I cannot imagine what it must have been to be in that situation, like in a profession where you are a doctor, your main priority has to be the patient. And knowing all of this that is going on, why that patient is here, that the person standing next to
True,
him or her
true,
is the one
true.
who has committed the crime, but you cannot do anything. Like
You can't, you can't.
how did you manage to just rein in your emotions like that, and
You just
just
want to, you need to remain silent and you need to think of the daughter what has to be done with her, that's it. And make her okay, and so she can go home. Because the wife is supporting the husband, not the daughter.
Right.
She says, Mera husband hai. Even when I question them, why don't you take him to the police? She says, he's my husband. How can I go to the police?
Right.
So they
Yeah.
don't, even wife battering, they'll come with injuries all over the place in the private parts. Nalka lag gaya, balti lag gayi, and I know what's happened. So I
Ah.
thought, let me keep her dignity and let me not question further. Let me just
Hmm.
treat it. At times you
Because
learn to do that.
yeah, because there's always this fear that if you probe too much, the patient is not going to come back.
True,
If
true,
something
true.
serious happens,
Yeah.
you want them to come back,
She
right?
won't come back. Yeah, true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
God, it was like I had goosebumps while I was reading it, and it
Yeah,
kind of reminded me of this thing that you say in the very beginning, in the preface of your book. You say how much compassion is good enough,
true,
you know,
true.
and this
Yeah,
is something that I struggle with as well because I am an empath,
true.
and sometimes you feel this wave of emotion for other people
Yeah.
and their problems,
Mm,
and you can't control it.
true.
So being in your profession, I don't know how you manage to control all of that, all of that compassion. How do
I
you
know.
compartmentalize like that?
I can't. I'm still grappling with those questions. I've not got any answer. Like maybe I would say it's pathological empathy, which I had. It's not right
Hmm.
to have so much. I wouldn't want
Right,
anyone to come home and be sleepless thinking of a patient. It's not that.
right,
Your children
right.
are there. My children grew up, but now
Hmm.
I'm making up for it, which is kind of late. My children say you were always too busy. You were never there for us. But now I'm wholeheartedly there for them.
Right. But yes, every mother and every working professional has to
True.
kind of
Right,
balance it
right.
out. That's how it
I know.
works.
I know.
Yeah. So I want to ask you. I have forgotten my question. I'm like so overwhelmed with this. I'm sorry. I want to ask you what was the most rewarding aspect of having written this book? The most rewarding aspect of having written this book for you?
Number one was that these stories no longer bothered me once they were written uh, on my laptop. And I
Right.
was so relieved and so free of these stories that had I kept quiet, they wouldn't have gone out. Because it's not a memoir, if you see, it's not about me. It's about people and it's about a country, it's about villages. So I
Right.
wanted
Right.
people to know what's happening in India, and people are not aware. That's the thing. Second was when I got good reviews, people said, some said I got goosebumps, some said I cried, like you're saying. So that is rewarding. I feel that there are nice people who connect with my book.
Right. I am sure reader reviews are something that every author craves for, and I'm sure that every review is like a pat on the back, saying you did well in this
Yes,
book.
yes. It matters. It really matters. Every single review matters. Yeah.
Okay, we have some more comments. Let me see if we have. Guys, you can ask your questions in the comment section, and I will highlight those questions at the end of this session. Krishnaveni. Krishnaveni is saying it was difficult for me to control after reading the book. Uh, I'm sure it must have been very difficult to rein in your emotions because it was difficult for me as well. I was so moved. I have grown up watching these dramas, medical dramas, and everything, but it was the first time when I read your book. I read it in the Indian context and I realized how much medicine has advanced in just the past 4 decades, like you said, like, polio, rabies, gastroenteritis,
True,
all of these
true, true,
diseases used to be fatal. And just in
true,
4 short decades, we are here and they are not fatal.
true,
And how,
true.
the timely appearance of one doctor at the right place at the right time is, means life or death
That
for
was a good
people.
sentence you wrote in your review. And let me thank Krishna Veni. She's a doctor too. She's from Lady Hardinge too. Krishna Veni,
Right,
thank you for joining us.
right. So as a doctor, you have, like you have mentioned in your book as well, that you experienced a lot of miracles with
Hmm.
patients.
Yeah.
What was that like? What as a doctor, when do you say, "Ki, okay, let me try this one more thing, and let's see if this has any effect on the patient." Like, what was that like when you have given up all hope and just try something random and the patient just kind of gets up?
Monica, the thing is, it was when they came to me, they said, if you don't give us anything, we'll take them home, whether they live or die.
Right.
So that fear was not there, and the reverence was a lot in those days. So I said, if they're taking her or him home, let me try a few things. It could be the quacks have given some wrong things. Maybe the diagnosis is wrong. And I would just pray. I do a Om Namah Swaha when I do anything, and I would pray for them. And I really am uh, a great follower of placebos. Though everybody talks against them, I feel they really work, placebos. And a kind tone, empathy, compassion, that really works wonders. 90% patients are cured of it.
Right. Right.
If you're
Right.
just, they know they're coming to a good place. And I made sure, like, that my clinic was never too fancy because they wouldn't enter them. If I had
Ah.
those glass facade and AC and all, they wouldn't enter. I know it. So I kept
Ah.
my clinic so accessible to my patients. They would crowd around me, they would talk in the waiting room. My waiting room was always full. They could eat, they could have their lassi, they could put their feet up. I never had rules for them. I
Right.
wanted it
Right.
to be a safe place. अगर घर में झगड़ा हुआ है, they should come. They should be able to come and say hello to me.
Right, right, right. That's so endearing, the thing that you have also mentioned in your book, how people used to just come to meet their family
Yeah.
members at the
Yes.
clinic
Yes.
and take some
Yeah.
respite from the sun, and they would just sit in
True.
front of the cooler, have some cold
Yeah.
water. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
very
Yes.
important. And you have
I know.
shown in the book that how, this is something new to me. I did not realize this, but how a GP also has to be a good businessman or woman. Like how researched your quacks and you researched about those voodoo doctors कि आप कहीं से information निकाल के आ रहे हैं कि what are they
Yeah.
prescribing, what are they giving to the patients while sitting in your clinic. You are doing all of those things. Like market research चल रहा है. So a
Right.
GP
Right.
also has to be like an entrepreneur and a businessman. That's
GP is
fantastic.
a lot many things rolled into one. That's for sure. If you're
हाँ.
just a GP, you don't get this kind of following.
Right.
You have to make it a pleasant place, not about money. That doesn't even cross your mind. And I was superstitious. I didn't let money enter my mind ever. And I would say you do well if you're doing your job well. It's not that you're starving. No, you make a decent amount of money too. If people think, oh, if I'm a GP, I won't make enough money, I would encourage doctors to do this. There is a lot of money to be made too, and yet be compassionate.
Right, right. Yes.
Because some people
Rural,
just think about money.
rural practice, if this is something that you can enlighten us, what is the situation? What is okay. Can you hear me? Is my voice audible?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So what is the condition of the rural practice in Indian medical system? Is it like you do your mandatory thing once and then you move on? Then you
Yeah.
can choose wherever to practice. Is it like that?
See, after internship, we had a 3 month rural posting. Everybody has it. Even now they have it. So where you're
Okay.
sent
Okay.
to a village. So we had a rural posting somewhere is slightly beyond Kapashera, but that side only. But
Right.
then you're so young, you're barely 24, 23.
Right.
I think 23 after internship. And and after studying and giving exams, everybody wants to have a good time. So we also had a good time. And you never think that someday, and everyone thinks we'll do MD, we'll learn over there. But I
Right.
was thrown right from there to the practice.
Huh, huh. That
That
must
was
have
a
been
lot of
difficult.
learning and hmm,
Starting from scratch, it must have been very
yes,
difficult because
very
in your
tough,
internship,
very.
like you say in the book, in your internship, you always had your compounder, the uncle with you, that he will say, "कि अच्छा ये वाला medicine दे दो, ये वाला medicine दे
That
दो."
was in the rural posting, that
Yes.
peon, he was a
Ha.
peon, but
Ha
he
ha
was
ha.
in the rural posting. But during internship, we weren't the senior residents, professors.
Right.
They would tell us,
Ha
teach us.
ha
That was
ha
very
ha.
good. Like Kalavati is, they get about 100 admissions a day they were getting, which was more
Right.
than many other hospitals. So one
Hmm.
posting really helped us. I mean, my pediatrics posting taught me whatever I had to learn for a lifetime.
Right, right. And I'm sure you learned a lot from the GP practice as well, like a lot
Of course.
of practical experience
Yes,
from
yes,
there.
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
We have a comment from Rajni, a doctor or a writer, which is more satisfying for one is your profession and the other is your passion. She's asking which one is more satisfying for you.
Rajni, I would say, I think both, I would say, I can't take out one from the other because if I were not a doctor, I couldn't have followed my passion of art or writing or poetry. I think I have always told people, like, if you haven't lived life, how can you write? You need to
Right,
live life and see what's real life is like, go out into the world, then you can write.
right, right.
So I
Yes.
can't separate. Same is with art too. I mean, if I haven't seen life, I wouldn't be able to paint, I know. It will be superficial, whatever I paint.
That is so profound. Yes, you have to live your life to kind of write about it or express it in your art.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to be completely immersed into that life
True,
to be
true.
able to express it in words or in paintings or in
Right,
music.
right,
That is
right.
very true. Krishnaveni ma'am is saying it's an honor.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Krishna.
Khushbu is saying if a movie were to be made based on your book, who do you think should play you?
Oh my God. I think any young actress, I mean, who can wear a cotton sari and look good in it, I mean, anybody. Haven't thought about it. Sorry, Khushbu.
Khushbu, if you have any recommendations, then we would
Yeah,
love to hear what
true.
you have to say. Okay, another thing that I was really interested to know is, when you write about your accident, being a doctor, I have heard this and I have experienced it with other doctors. They are very reluctant to give away control to another doctor. So when
Oh.
you had your accident, what was it like? You knew what is to be done, but the other person, whoever
True.
is there, is not doing that. What was that like?
Mm. See, I was bleeding a lot at that time. Like, if I talk only of my case, I was bleeding a lot. I was almost like switching over from consciousness to unconsciousness kind. So I was in
Right,
no position, and there was nobody near me, none of my family, because the cell phones weren't there that time.
right,
So
right,
I was at the mercy of nurses, and the doctor wouldn't come, as I've written in my book. The
right.
nurse would just come and she would look at me and go away, and she would come again. And I was shivering without a blanket. I was all soaked in blood, and nobody
Mm-hmm.
knew. So I was in no position to kind of take control.
Yeah, but it must have made you feel very angry, right? Because knowing normal average people don't know what is to be done. When we have an accident, we are at the mercy of the doctors and like, okay, whatever you want to do. But being a doctor, you already know what is to be done, an emergency care,
Right,
what is to
right.
be done. So it must be
True.
really frustrating to just kind of
Yeah,
be at the
true.
mercy of others.
I
That
know,
that
I know.
that was
True.
really
I mean, I kept
scary.
telling the nurse, give me a Wopran injection, please. I'm in severe pain. But she didn't
Right.
listen. She said, हाँ, doctor aa rahe hain, wait karo, wait karo. So she didn't give it. So
हाँ.
what will happen to normal people? I don't know.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
Khushbu is saying doctors often make bad patients, and I am one for sure. All right, you guys, we have been having this amazing conversation with Balesh ma'am, and I would definitely, recommend all of you read this book. It is super, super interesting. Even if you are interested in science or biology or medicine in any way, please read this book. It's not medico as such. It is a lot
Hmm.
about life. It is a lot about the effect of westernization and globalization on the youth of the country, and how being at the right place at the right time can affect so many lives, generation after generation. I would definitely recommend you read this book. It is pure gold. You should read it. I'll show you, ma'am. You can show your book to our
Thank
viewers.
you, Monica. Thank you, Monica. So that's my book, and I will be really grateful if you guys pick it up and please leave a review. It really matters for the book.
I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and it is
Oh,
free on Kindle Unlimited if you guys want to check it out. It is beautiful. Please, please, please do read this book. Okay, so
thank you,
ma'am,
Monica.
what is next from your pen? Are you working on something right now? Do we look out for another book from you?
Yes. So I'm working on two books right now, Monica. I'm making a coffee table book for my art because I think it's high time. I've been painting for more than 30 years. So
Oh
that's
wow!
coffee table book with my poems. So my poems will get a place.
Right.
And I'm writing short stories, but the way my story is turning out, it might become a novel. So I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. That would be super interesting. I would love to read, anything written
Yeah,
by you. I would definitely love to read. Your writing is
right.
very, very poetic. It kind of transported me to, even though I have never been to even like Gurgaon as such, I have never been, but
Oh,
your
oh,
writing transported me to Kapashera, and I could just visualize
wow.
all those people and the setting
Thank
and
you.
everything.
Thank you.
Definitely
Thank
write
you so
another
much.
novel.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. That's so nice for you to say.
Okay, so do you have something, some tips or advice to our viewers? Most of our viewers are either readers or writers. So, would you like to say a few words to them?
I think the first thing is just write. What I did, the rule I followed during my writing was 40-10, 40-20, sorry. 40 minutes non-stop writing, and then you stop for 20 minutes, walk around, have a coffee, whatever. But in 20
Okay.
minutes, you get back. So
Okay.
40-20 really worked for me, and I could write for eight. It turned out to be 8 hours in a day. And I aimed for
Oh, wow.
2,000 words every single day because I mean, I was a new person using the laptop. It was a new laptop, so I lost a lot of documents. Then I had to write it
Oh,
all over again. I mean, I mean, I had to do
oh
that
my
work. You
God.
guys won't.
Yeah.
Like at times, I lost 20,000 words, and I would be pretty upset
Oh,
because my
that is a
children are
tragedy
not
for
here
a
to help me.
writer.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't know how to save. Then now I've learned. I'll be better now.
Right.
So I think just write, even if you think it's bad, doesn't matter. Just write. Don't bother about the words. Don't bother about vocabulary. And I would suggest if you're writing a memoir, do not wash dirty linen in public. It doesn't serve anybody well. Nobody. Write it
Right.
as a third person, write it as a short story, anything.
Oh, okay. I would like to pick your brain on this a little bit, because even I was thinking of, exploring this genre of nonfiction, of memoir writing. So, what would you say is, like, like a delicate balance between revealing and, withholding? How much do you reveal and how much do you withhold?
See, you have to figure out your relationships. You don't want to spoil relationships, depending on how many people are close to you, and you presume that this person may not read it now, may pick it up 5 years later. So
Right.
what I did was, like, since I've written about my father's accident, so I sent that chapter to all my brothers. I said, "You want to cut out anything? Please do. I'm happy to cut it out." So they
Hmm.
told me this paragraph is not right, cut it out. So I cut
Okay.
it out, no problems.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yes.
the editors, you have to tell your editor, if you find I'm getting too personal or bitter about my family, please delete it. So they help me in this. It
Oh,
works out well. Yeah,
okay. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Because when you look at it, the objective of the book is not to kind of delve into all of those aspects of your
true,
own life.
true.
Yes. So you
Right,
have to
right.
be in line with the
Huh.
objective of the book. Yeah.
Right, right. I had written a few chapters. In fact, one of the reviewers here, she had written, we would like to know more about her personal life. But then the book is not about me.
Right. 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 Yes, yes, yes.
So maybe
Even
the
though it
next
is a
one, huh?
memoir, even though it is a memoir, people might be, kind of confused with that. It has very
Right.
little of Balesh
Very
ma'am's life
little.
and a lot of her practice and her patients and the kind of
Right.
people that she interacted with on a daily basis. So it's more about that. So definitely, pick it up and read it. Thank you so much, Balesh ma'am. It has been
Thank you,
so
Monica.
amazing
Wonderful.
talking to you.
It was lovely talking to you. Thank you so much. So much.
And
And
we
thank you
have
for
some
everyone who joined in. Thank you so much.
comments from our viewers. Deepa says, "Love the 40-20 principle." Yes, I am definitely going to practice this because I have this concentration issue. I write something and then I go off. Krishna Veni ma'am is saying, "Thank you for the tips, Balesh," and everybody is. Kajal is looking forward to your next project. Please, 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 hurry up and finish it.
Thank you, Kajal. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming to
Thank you,
Pen Connect,
Monica. It was such a
talking to.
pleasure coming here. Thank you. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. Thank you so much for your engagement and your questions. It has been
Yes.
amazing. And I would again, recommend please read the book. It is going to be life changing. You have not read a book like this in the Indian context. It is very important that we read such books. Please pick it up and read it. Before we leave, Deepa says, this is one of the most inspirational sessions I came across. Thank you for the awesome writing tips, Dr. Balesh. You are such an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to everybody who's come here.
Thank you, everyone. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night. Good night, Monica. Thank you so much.